an easy-to-use application for creating your own games. That pitch had the potential to excite many back in 1994, and indeed it did. Klik and Play was a relatively popular tool that brought rudimentary game-making capabilities to the hands of people who had no idea how to code, didn't know what a script was, couldn't make sprites, and only wanted to spend a couple of hours making something anyway. The quality of the output was, as you might expect, not really something you would want to pay for, but entertaining enough, particularly if it was your friend that made it. I would perhaps label it as the 90s answer to free Flash-based web browser games. The Klik and Play engine also came with a bunch of pre-made games that could be played for ideas, or altered to speed up the process of the user's own creation. And it's these that I'll be blasting through today on YesterYear's Mac games in a quick-fire format. Obviously this is the Macintosh release, which I got off a Mac format cover disk dating from 1998, when the program was more or less obsolete and made freeware. I'm running this on a PowerBook G3, although it's not my usual Pismo. That one was screwing up the audio playback, and it's probably macOS 9's fault. So we're using an older 233MHz Main Street, that's a Wall Street without an L2 cache, rocking macOS 8.5. There are 23 bundled games in total here, so let's dive in. First up we have Astro Force. These importing movie bars are something you'll have to get used to with Klik and Play. So the music is all over the place and you don't move very fast at all. Destroying these cosmic tadpoles, however, drops power-ups that can remedy this. This thing won't die, and now I'm super slow again, and not likely to last much longer. The games seem to be listed alphabetically, so it may come as no surprise that after Astro Force comes Brainwave, a colourful mastermind game with a daft background tune and stupid sound effects. I'd say this achieves what it sets out to. Condition Red is a missile command clone. Use the mouse to detonate incoming warheads to protect the cities. It requires a not unremarkable level of dexterity, although once you've successfully completed a wave, the cities blow themselves up anyway. I needn't have bothered really. Crazy Pool is in fact not particularly crazy at all, with a MIDI rendition of a well-known classical tune playing throughout. It enables two players to face off against one another, with the goal of potting as many pulsating globules as possible. Go for Goal is next, another game that requires two people to really make the gameplay into a game. This top-down footy shootout has the goalies crouched down, crabs scuttling up and down without really paying attention to where the ball is. The referee runs around aimlessly and is easier to make contact with than the ball itself. Game number 6 is Gracilis 5. For whatever reason, the text on the main screen is missing, while other text during gameplay doesn't go away. Collecting power-ups allows you to select weapon enhancements, much like Astro Force, although the more advanced ones only stay with you for the current level. I'm not entirely sure why hedgehogs that cry when they spawn need to be destroyed. Maybe you're playing the bad guy, or maybe it's because this was made with the bundled assets and there wasn't a whole lot of choice. Next up is more hedgehogs. When I first played this 2 decades ago, these sums were quite appropriate for my age. Less so now. This is another 2-player versus, where correct sums enable the hedgehogs to run across the field, in an attempt to be the first one to reach lunch. Moving swiftly on, Concentration is a card matching game. Nuff said. Game number 9 is Maniac Races, featuring 2 particularly gormless looking individuals, one of which seems to have been the one that put this game together. 2 players again, and due to there being no way to program AI in Klik and Play, it's not going to be especially interesting unless you do have a chum handy. One other peculiarity in all of these keyboard-controlled 2-player games are the keys allocated to player 2. QAOP. Who thought that was a good idea? Crazy Keyboard is next. This far down the list because it's spelt wrong. This one is perhaps a little crazy in so much that the pre-made tunes are incomprehensible. Thump the record button and smash away at the keyboard to make a tune. Another 2-player racing game here. Racing Line sees 2 players drive around 5 courses in pursuit of the fastest lap. Here's Reversi. This is a simple game concept that has been implemented quite well on the game's engine. Klik and Play's logic is predominantly based around object collision, so to flip the counters here, new ones that a player puts on the board fire off arrows in all directions. These change the colour of whatever opposing counter they fly over, so long as they've bounced back off a counter that is the same colour as the one that was put down. We're past the halfway point now, and I've had to reboot. Click and Play crashed and took the rest of the computer with it. A common occurrence with the old Mac OS. So back on point with one of the games I remembered quite well. Pinter is a game about an alcoholic crab who is happy to run around a busy street and traverse a dangerous river in order to reach the sweet, sweet nectar that provides a temporary distraction from the misery that is life. Here we have... oh, it's these two again. I think you're supposed to bump one another into the holes, but the non-existent player 2 is happily driving over one repeatedly, while in attempts to hit it, I've managed to drive myself into others. Ah, another space shooter. The mission text decided to show up this time. How considerate of it. It explains that you're shooting at Chardox, and plays at a much faster pace than the other two space shooters that we've seen so far.
Welcome to the space game!
The less said about this one, the better. A memory game with questionable theming, stupid animations, and a well-done screen that looks downright terrifying. What even is that? Well, the next one is one of the better games here. Bugs isn't an original idea per se. I'm sure I've seen this somewhere else, but it's a pretty good interpretation of it. Shoot the computer bugs before they can get to the centre of the screen. Visuals are a lot more complex than most other things here, and it's genuinely quite fun. In stark contrast to Slot Machine, which, would you believe it, is a slot machine. Ski Monday is a click-and-play interpretation of Ski Free. The controls are clunky, and there's not much out there on the slope, just trees, the odd rabbit, and the flagpoles for the skier to pass through. Try to pass through as many as possible in 60 seconds. Game 20 is another decent one. Romeo and Juliet is of course a classic Shakespearean tale about forbidden love.
I'll save you, darling.
Ignoring the fact that they both died at the end of it, Romeo versus the Pie Devil sees the two Italians in a new adventure, where the Pie Devil kidnaps Juliet and forces Romeo to climb ladders, jump platforms, and dodge massive pies. The Pie Devil hoys them from the top of the screen like the Black Knight in Dark Castle, and should one hit Romeo,
Take that, Romeo.
he eats it, and the pie looks to be bigger than him. And all the time Juliet is flailing her handkerchief around like she's guiding an aeroplane into a bay. The levels become pretty straightforward once you get to know them, so overall I think that, like the other decent games here, it's not necessarily worth more than 10 minutes. Toyland is the game that features in Click and Play's video tutorial. It's essentially Breakout, with mice at the bottom that you must protect. If the ball hits all the mice before you've smashed everything on the shelves, it's game over. The Last Day is game number 22, and is another one worthy of note. The opening cinematic sets the scene effectively enough. Your mates have been abducted by aliens and sent back in time. It's up to you then to rescue them, because the travel has apparently turned them into brain-dead zombies, incapable of recognising the rescue ship or the dangerous turquoise dinosaurs. Your dude shoots in the direction the mouse is pointing, and you move him by clicking places. This is pretty fun, and I love how the dinosaurs jump for joy when you lose a life. Finally then, Zero-G Pinball. A pinball game with one idea I quite like. This being the ability to move the third side flipper up and down. It isn't really put to any use, however, as the ball flies around the screen at a single speed and is guaranteed to be lost within 10 seconds. So there we have it, the 23 bundled games. I do remember others popping up on other Mac format cover discs, and while Click and Play's terms of use explicitly stated that anything made within it must be distributed as freeware, I do know of one commercial release that I'll probably cover at a later date. No doubt there were others too. Now, I've been quite flippant about most of these games here, but I think it's worth stating that as they were made by what I presume are amateurs in a small amount of time, they really are what they are, and were never supposed to be as good as actual retail or shareware games that you buy. Click and Play was at its heart an educational tool, and no doubt encouraged numerous individuals over its years to pursue a career in programming and game development. It's worth keeping that in mind, as while, even by 90s standards, it was pretty basic, I'm sure that some very talented people in the industry wouldn't be there if it weren't for Click and Play. That's it then for this edition of YesterYear's Mac Games. Pop your thoughts in the comments or on the Twitter. You can find me at YYSMG. If you enjoyed this video, do consider perusal of some of my others, and thump the subscribe button to keep on top of new content. Thanks for watching then, and see you next time.